Hello, I'm going to speak quite briefly and quite quickly about Wilfred Owen's poem Disabled. There is a transcript of my talk available should you wish to review it. This poem is very much a product of the First World War. Owen himself was a British soldier and he was killed during the war, tragically just 1 week before peace was declared. The First World War is your essential context to this poem. I'll now take you through some of the key words and phrases in the poem. Do bear in mind the things that come at the beginning and the end of the poem, because this is how you comment on structure. The poem begins by describing the soldier sitting in a wheelchair, waiting for dark. The word sat expresses his lack of agency and his passivity in his present circumstances. It will come to contrast strongly with the images of him before the war, when he was strong, vital, and active. He is waiting for dark. Again, his passivity is reflected in the construction of the sentence, which highlights that darkness will come for him. On a literal level, he is waiting for a nurse or an orderly to collect him after this time of reflection that he has been given. But from a thematic perspective, he is waiting to die, as meaning and opportunity for his future have ended. This is a very bleak portrayal of disability, one that many modern disabled critics would not support. But it is clear that the soldier, while never made into a simple figure, represents for Owen the tragedy of so many soldiers left disabled by the war. The soldier is clearly haunted by his past. He is almost surrounded by memories of times before and during the war, although interestingly, the pre-war memories seem to dominate, perhaps reflecting the pain that they now cause the soldier. The second stanza begins by describing how the town used to swing so gay, suggesting again that the happiness and the liveliness of the pre-war period have ended, not just for the soldier, but for society more broadly. The physical difference that the soldier now lives with is described as being like some queer disease, suggesting that people treat him almost as if he is what he represents, suffering and lost potential, and that this is contagious and they cannot bear to touch him. In the third stanza, Owen reflects on the powerful changes that the war has wrought on the soldier. Before the war, he was younger than his youth, a young man who seemed even more innocent and naive than his age, but the war, which lasted only a year for him, has aged him dramatically. His body is broken, and dreams now seem to belong to the past. In the fourth stanza, Owen writes that the young, naive soldier had no fears of fear before the war. Notice how the concept of fear is capitalized like a proper noun. It becomes a great enemy, and in this case, fear likely represents Owen's own experience of post-traumatic stress disorder, which at the time was called shell shock, the inability to move on from traumatic experiences. Towards the end of this stanza, we are told that some cheered him home, but not as crowds cheer goal. When people cheer a goal at a football match, they celebrate wildly and jubilantly. But when the soldier returned with his comrades, there were some polite claps. The quotation suggests a more formal, restrained response, respectful, and to borrow a word from later in the poem, solemn. It was an uncomfortable kind of gratitude. It is always important in poetry analysis to consider what comes at the beginning and what comes at the end. We return at the end of the poem to the soldier in his present-day situation. His final and most immediate reflection is on the experience of that very day when women's eyes passed from him to the strong men that were whole. This powerfully captures the soldier's invisibility. He is no hero, as he once dreamed he would be. He is diminished. The final two lines merge the voice of the third-person narrator with the thoughts of the soldier. They have a plaintive, childlike tone. How cold and late it is. Why don't they come and put him into bed? Why don't they come? The repetition here emphasizes again the soldier's helplessness and hopelessness.